I'm Ryan. I'm the head painter and artist at Counts Customs. I really love to work on motorcycles. Ever since I was knee-high, I loved two wheels.
Something about Ryan Evans never quite added up. While millions of viewers watched him transform ordinary cars into masterpieces on Counting Cars, rumors and speculation continued to follow him off-screen. Then came the questions. Questions about where he went, questions about why he seemed to step away from the spotlight, and questions that fans still debate today. Because the truth behind Ryan's life after Counting Cars is far more complicated than a simple success story. What really happened after the cameras stopped rolling? Join us as we uncover what really happened to Ryan Evans after Counting Cars.
Check this out, man. I got something that you ain't seen yet.
You haven't shown me something?
Nope.
Convincing a paint genius. Before the cameras and the advent of Counting Cars, there was Counts Customs, a place where every gearhead's dreams come true. Owned by Danny the Count Coker, the shop transformed classic cars into hot rods and gave old American motorbikes a new lease of life. Although the shop was fueled by Danny's creativity and his fiery love for bikes and automobiles, he noticed it could use a painting genius. But where exactly would he get that from? Aside from the casinos and the lavish lifestyle, Las Vegas was always an automobile city. The people just had a thing for cars. So if he wanted just any real automobile enthusiast with just about good enough painting skill, he could find that a dime a dozen. But he wanted more. He needed someone who could actually bring a car to life by just painting it. Danny was always a showman, crazy about music as he was about cars, and that's exactly what he looked for in his next painter. However, he didn't find anyone until 1999. Shannon Ako, Danny's lead bike builder, was in Los Angeles looking for talent who could take on some serious work at the shop and improve the quality of their work. And that's how they met Ryan Evans. As soon as Shannon saw him paint in that auto shop where he had met him, he was certain he had found the right guy for Counts Customs. But how do you pry a guy away from his comfort zone?
Rolly! Bring out that beautiful blazer.
Wow.
Listen to it.
Oh, that color is beautiful.
Look at that.
Ryan moved from Texas to Los Angeles to be closer to the car culture and to fully explore his capabilities. He was basically living the dream. But sometimes talent meets opportunity, and something just has to give. While he was already painting in Los Angeles, Danny offered him something more. He offered him the chance to become a part of something bigger than just painting cars and bikes. He was giving him the chance to be a part of the Counts Customs family and also the leader of the painting and artwork department of the shop. Although it wasn't particularly set in stone that he would succeed at Counts Customs, he wanted to explore the possibility, so he agreed to move to Las Vegas in 1999. And in his first few weeks in the building, he got along with these new team members like a house on fire. And the shop reached a whole new peak with artistic intelligence. But Count Customs' shop wasn't only getting recognition in Las Vegas. Their recent designs were doing numbers, especially since Danny Coker started appearing as the automotive expert on Pawn Stars. Then came the History Channel, bringing the camera in 2010. And that's when everything changed for Ryan. At the time, no one imagined that he could become one of the fan favorites. But how exactly did he fare with the overbearing weight of celebrity lifestyle?
I've been there many times, man. I've seen that look in his eye. I know he's going all out, world-class, full customization in this car. It's going to be so gorgeous. He's probably going to be afraid to drive it because he doesn't want it to get dirty.
Ryan Evans, the soul of Counting Cars. Ryan came to Las Vegas in search of an opportunity to be at the very top of the food chain in automotive design. But he had never really imagined television fame. But working with a man of Danny's eccentric personality, showmanship was not debatable. He had always had big dreams to carry the weight of both his father's legacies as a musician and a mechanic. So merging both worlds definitely came with some serious publicity. And just like that, Ryan got caught in the middle of it all. However, Ryan wasn't some deer caught in headlights. He also had television charisma, and he loved that his own work would find its way into the limelight. While most fans imagined that he would somehow get lost in the mix, especially with Danny dominating the headlines with the constant swear words, bandanas, and classic rock performances, they couldn't have been more wrong. Ryan's genius shone like headlights in a dark alley. He was no secondary character. Fans loved him, and his ingenuity in his painting got everyone talking. But Ryan's painting genius did not come from a vacuum. He has been painting since he was a child, learning bits and pieces in high school automotive shop classes. It started as a hobby, but over a few years, it somehow became a serious passion.
What's going on, gents?
I'm making sure Ryan's doing this right.
I was just gonna say, Mike, it's so nice to see you hard at work, man. Don't bust out a sweat over there, brother. Man, it's looking beautiful. Don't you wish you could do this, Mike?
At first, he was crazy about only bikes. They no longer appealed to him as just machines with engines and raw power. To him, they were canvases on two wheels, and he was Michelangelo. Fans could immediately tell that every brushstroke told a story about his personal experiences, which he had been keeping awfully quiet about since he joined the shop in 1999, and the show started in 2012. Maybe Danny was the heart and the loud chaos that the show thrived on. Ryan became its gentle soul, and fans just couldn't get enough of him. But as the show continued, fans started to notice a silent tension brewing between some of the main cast ensemble. Although the testosterone gets so high sometimes and a bit of profanity flies in opposite directions, this feeling was different. Suddenly, the show seemed so thick with tension, so tangible you could cut it with a knife. It wasn't long before the speculations came in. Some assumed Ryan had completely fallen out with Danny over some embezzlement case. While the pair was seen together beyond the camera, it still wasn't enough to quell the rumors. But in 2021, the unthinkable happened. The History Channel suddenly chose not to renew the show. Although there were no interviews or podcasts explaining this decision, fans just couldn't believe the show had barely run its course. Did something really happen behind the scenes?
I'm also going to talk to you about projects that we're building here at Counts Customs from start to finish. You're going to see a lot of cool things.
The accusations that changed everything. Before the show came to its abrupt end in 2021, Danny and Ryan had formed a connection beyond the screens. According to Danny, he had worked with Ryan for so long that he had become a part of his family. However, an accounting issue in 2017 cast a dark cloud over their relationship. Although Danny was a musician and car enthusiast, he was just as street smart, and he soon figured out that someone in the shop had been skimming a little off the income. At that point, the die was cast, and Danny wasn't messing around. He wanted the culprit found as quickly as possible. Imagine treating the Counts Customs employees as family, and that was the thanks he got. Sources close to him claimed he was livid, looking desperately for the culprit, and dying to have him punished. But as much as he looked outward for his malicious thief, he looked inwards too, and fans claimed that he also had his eyes on Ryan. Maybe that explains the tension that fans noticed sometime before the show was canceled. But sources close to the situation claimed that their relationship spiraled into despair. Suddenly, his unexplained disappearances on the show made more sense than usual. As expected, the rumor mills went into overdrive, churning out one speculation after another. While some claimed that their relationship remained solid even after Ryan became a suspect, others suggested that it was finally over between them, and the show's ratings plummeted as a result.
Nothing beats seeing a happy client when they lay their eyes on their Count's customized car for the first time and they smile so big.
After the show ended, both men had been away from the spotlight, and no one knew for sure what they did behind the scenes. While some insiders claimed that Ryan had finally left the shop, creating a competition to specifically hurt Danny, others suggested that he remained there. Nothing was clear after the show ended, and fans have lived with this uncertainty and speculation since 2021. But despite Ryan's popularity in counting cars, he has often kept his personal life private and rarely mentions his kids or family on television and in interviews. However, after the show, fans noticed that he often stepped out with his wife, Dana Pauly, and their son, Logan. But the paparazzi pictures did not exactly fit the narrative peddled about him as jobless or unhappy since he left the show and, presumably, the shop. Obviously, fans had questions, and only two men had the answers: Danny and Ryan. However, neither of them was willing to speak at the time. Danny, especially, had been a public image for a long time, so he knew how to work the PR magic. He could simply speak to debunk the rumors, or just stay silent until they faded away. But more rumors about his deteriorating relationship with Ryan continued to surface. He figured something had to give, so he granted an interview, and he revealed something no one expected.
And these cars are challenging. They're challenging for all of us, but especially for Ryan. I know that this charge is going to be stunning in the end, but the question becomes, is this the charge that's finally going to win over Ryan?
The truth about Ryan Evans. Fraud is such a big deal in the eyes of the law, but even worse when it comes from within the family. At least that was the theory at the time. While Danny had often stayed quiet about speculation about his relationship with Ryan during the fraud case, his recent revelation sent a much bigger shockwave among fans than anyone had predicted. In a sit-down tell-all interview with Jody Only, a famous freelance journalist who worked with Top Speed at the time, he revealed that his relationship with Ryan was not affected, at least not in the way that the media had reported it. First, he claimed that the fraudulent activities were not rumors. The company was indeed targeted for fraud by a close employee. But it wasn't good old Ryan or any of the leading cast members who often got screen time on the show. Instead, it was a guy in a managerial position, Joseph Frontiera. According to Danny, he had been vetted by a huge outsourcing company called Randstad. Obviously, he rarely had a reason not to trust him with the company's books. But he was wrong, and Ryan was caught in the crossfire. After the show, fans had made a series of attempts to pin the accusation on Ryan, and even circulated deep-fake images of him in cuffs and taken into police custody for a crime he did not commit. But Ryan remained unfazed. But Danny defended him with his life. "That is a horrible rumor about Ryan," exclaimed Danny.
Dude, though, I see it. Look, it's got good-looking exhaust, 9-inch, 4-wheel disc. I like the wheels. Dude, I'm actually kind of digging on this thing. It's already dressed real nice.
I told you.
I like the hood, bro.
My lord, this guy has been with me for 25 years. This guy is like a brother, like family. We truly love each other like family. We've worked together, no kidding, for at least 25 years, and there are all kinds of stories about him stealing from me. Danny claimed that Ryan continued to work for him even after the fact, and he never considered stopping either. Danny repeatedly warned that fans needed to stop treating everything they found on social media as law. But despite Danny's warnings against deepfakes and the defense of Ryan, fans needed more answers, but this time about other speculations. Obviously, Ryan wasn't the only one being bombarded with propaganda and media-driven lies. For context, Scott Jones, the popular no-nonsense manager who used to be in charge of Count's Customs bookkeeping, was suddenly replaced by Kevin Mack, and no one knew why either. At first, there were rumors that he wanted to stay close to his family and didn't think that Las Vegas was the right place to live the life that he wanted or raise a family. However, there was speculation that he was caught cooking the books, skimming a little here and there. While Danny kept his focus on keeping his conversation simply about the truth behind Ryan's story, fans pried further on how the 52-year-old has lived his life since Counting Cars ended. What exactly has Ryan been up to, aside from dealing with the rumors?
You wanted not only a 68 Dodge Charger, but you wanted one that was highly updated while paying respect to the original car.
Yep.
The legacy of Canvas genius. After Danny dispelled the dark clouds of rumors hanging over Ryan's career, long-term fans of the franchise started to see the 52-year-old in a different light. Finally, the real glow post-Counting Cars was starting to surface. Although he was not as loud or as heavy as most guys in an auto shop, his design served as a source of inspiration for many new-age gearheads in Las Vegas and beyond. While no one could really put a finger on exactly how many cars and bikes he had designed over his 100 appearances on the show, it is fair to say that he has created some seriously heavy designs. His legacy has mostly been built around spontaneous designs rather than intense planning. For context, Danny presented him with the opportunity to work on a Chevy C10 van, a delicious retro people carrier with custom Cadillac-style taillights, Mutter-style fender flares, bubble porthole windows, and a small block V8, breathing through 8 handmade, curly side exhaust tips. To some car enthusiasts who are crazy about body painting, it wasn't really an opportunity, it was a challenge. What could anyone really come up with as a captivating design on a van shaped like that? Well, Ryan was no ordinary painter. He had been doing this since time immemorial, and the C10 van was not going to be his undoing. So he came up with a vampire-themed paint job that changed everything. He created some stellar vampire murals, hand-turned genuine silver leafing, flame-type side graphics, and silver skulls around it.
I love Vegas.
Vegas stole my heart, man.
How many years now here?
16 years.
That's how long you've been with me. Maybe it's not Vegas, maybe it's me.
As a backstory, Danny has owned that van since 1982, and for the first time, he found someone bold enough to take on the designs and make it into something even better than what he had. Gearheads went haywire, watching the 52-year-old transform a can into a 4-wheeled painted canvas. But that wasn't all. In Season 6, he had a whole new challenge. He was tasked with creating the perfect paint job for a 1969 Cadillac. Most gearheads had always described it as the perfect pimp automobile, and Ryan gave it a wholesome look that didn't veer too far away from that. He used gold paint, gold flakes, silver and gold leaves, and pinstriping to decorate the luscious wheels. But the one that gave him some real critical acclaim came in 2015. Ryan received the Airbrush Action Magazine's choice for SEMA's Best in Show award for the custom paint and graphics on a custom 1973 Boattail Riviera. The 1973 Buick Riviera Boattail had a split-window rear end and a custom front grille. Ryan wanted a paint job that would set the show alight, and he found the perfect one. He created an insanely dark, sleek paint job with water droplets, pinstriping, graphics, silver leafing, and a haunting dark skull surrounding a blade right on the bonnet. However, the 52-year-old is not stopping anytime soon. Even though he had stepped out of the spotlight There are rumors of his new creations coming soon to the gear world. But Ryan wasn't the only man who kept his legacy alive after the show, was he?
You know me. Here she is, ready to rock. I'm going to gather up my boys. We're going to talk about the plan on this thing and make her wicked cool. It's got that big block 460 in it.
Really?
So,
That's awesome.
Two-wheel drive.
Life after counting cars. Although Ryan was a big part of counting cars and remains a huge part of Count's Customs, he was not a solo act. In fact, it is impossible to imagine counting cars without Danny Coker. But how has life after counting cars really treated the 62-year-old? Unlike Ryan, who has a sole focus on cars and painting, Danny is a multiple business owner. He owns a vampire-themed bar called the Count's Vamped Rock Bar and Grill, where he used to perform with his rock band, Count's 77, until 2025. For the most part, one could say that he was done with the spotlight just like Ryan. However, the spotlight wasn't really done with him now, was it? For context, after 16 years, he quietly sold his vampire-themed bar, called the Count's Vamped Rock Bar and Grill, with his wife, Coker, for almost $4.5 million. The deal was quiet, but somehow it made its way to social media. But that wasn't all. A few years after the show stopped broadcasting, malicious viewers created deepfake images of him advertising snake oil on Fox. Imagine watching almost real deepfakes of oneself apprehended for selling narcotics-based pills and controlled substances. Suddenly, the Ryan deepfakes no longer felt like isolated instances. Although Ryan was popular and had his own fans, counting cars was always the Danny Coker show. So he obviously got more attention. And for some reason, it just seems like he could never be done with the spotlight, no matter what he tried. But he wasn't alone in it. Just like Danny, Ryan found himself teetering on the collapse of his one legacy, even after Danny had cleared the air. Some sources still suggest that Danny might have been playing Big Brother, covering his part in Joseph's embezzlement scam. But he soon figured there wasn't much he could do about the ugly side of the media. So he kept that usual cool-as-you-like composure and just kept churning out new car paint jobs from Danny's shop. He chose silence over the spotlight and kept his family away from the media. To Ryan, it didn't matter that the spotlight was done with him, he was done with the spotlight. Yet, the uncertainty of his next move makes him interesting to long-term fans of the show. Whether the 52-year-old eventually chooses a new path or remains at Count's Customs forever, only time will tell. What are the chances that Ryan rebuilds a legacy for himself outside his exploits on counting cars? Do you think Ryan gave more to the show than his track record reflects? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.